No, I don't think that automation will ever really take real estate over. There's so many little things that are different every step of the way. Every house is different, every client is different, every moving situation is different, every, just timeline is different. Every little thing is so different. When problems arise, I've never dealt with the same problem twice.
But you
It's
have the experience to know how to navigate that
right,
problem.
right.
Whereas the newbie is like, YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we still have to call other
Yeah.
agents too. I definitely have my Rolodex of agents where I'm like, hey, this is happening. Have you dealt with this?
Yeah.
What can you tell me? So no, that's why I'm saying, there's always going to be something that's different, and you're not going to have dealt with everything. But that's why it's important that you also do get an agent where they're okay to say, hey, I don't know this one. Let me reach out to, my relationships and see how we can get this solved, the best.
When did you guys come out here then? So you said Clearwater, Florida. When did you guys move out to this area?
So we actually moved out to the DMV area. We lived in Maryland first, and we moved there in 2014.
Okay.
He moved like 6 months prior to me because we had two giant dogs, and trying to find a place that would accept them was kind of a challenge at first. So we did that. And then, like I said, I joined the Craig Northrup team like the second I moved here. And that was June or July of 2014. And then I've been...
Were you an agent out there in Florida?
No, I wasn't. I did bartending, I did serving, I did event planning eventually.
So all around people.
Yes.
And creating good experiences for people.
All
Yeah.
hospitality. Like I said, eventually it was into like the event planning side, but for the most part, like because I was younger, I was in my early 20s, so it was fast cash because I lived on my own. And
You say fast cash, but it's like people, like you have to really know how to work with people, though.
Absolutely.
Because I was in the service industry, and people that don't like people, you're gonna hate your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll say I grew up very sheltered too. My dad was very strict. He kind of kept us really secluded. And I had no family, really not a lot of friends because of him. So trying to, build that social skill was really tough for me because I grew up so sheltered and shy and
What
quiet.
do you mean by that? He kept you sheltered, like locked in a basement type sheltered? Or?
Practically. I mean, he might as well have, to be honest. He was a rough he was a rough man. He still is. Just very controlling.
Yeah.
I think it's just his own demons, So he isolated us from family. He isolated us from friends, So if we did get close somewhere, then we'd move somewhere else. So I grew up moving a lot, not even
So like
just
purposefully, so that way you didn't.
right.
Was there a reason? I'm being nosy now. Was there an intention behind that, or just because he didn't want you to get?
He would always say that
influence?
there was some kind of intention, but I mean, it was basically like just,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
To keep
Kind of
you sheltered.
escaping
Yeah.
the people that he would get to know or that would get to know him, I should say, But yeah, so moving around a lot,
It really taught you
yeah, to
probably knowing how to integrate quickly.
yes. And at 18, I moved out completely because I didn't want to live, under his roof anymore.
Yeah.
And the only thing, that I could get a job in was the restaurant industry that I knew could pay my bills if I lived alone. And that's what I did.
Were you by yourself, or did you have siblings?
Okay. Well, I did have I still do, obviously. I have a 20-year-old sister and now a 13-year-old half sister as well.
Okay.
So backtrack to that a little bit. My mom passed when I was 20, which left us with, just my dad. And again, we didn't have any other family around either. So my sister and I, were very close, of course, and I pretty much raised her up until she was like 5. But then once I moved out, because I couldn't live with him anymore, and it was a lot of back and forth with him and I. But once I finally moved out for good, because I couldn't live with him, he kind of just started even controlling her and keeping her away, and did the same thing to her that he did to me and my mom. And it was not the easiest way to grow up, and they're still going through it.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
Do
It
you
is
feel
what
like
it
that
is.
has to do with like your profession now? Is like that
Oh,
home, that
absolutely.
stability? Like that's all I'm saying in terms of like the moving around, not having that home
Yeah.
base, that safety.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because we moved around so much, now I'm so desperate to just stay in one place and find roots for my daughter.
Yeah.
I don't want to move her around every 5 years. I don't want to change her environment. You know, the stability for us as a family is a must. And that's why we're so adamant about having our roots, you know, whether it's in Percival or Round Hill or whatnot, you know, we want to stay in this area because I don't want things to change for her. She loves it. I love it. You know, my husband loves it. So to us, it's home, you know,
Yeah.
and it feels good to finally have that for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
How long have you been an agent now then?
So I actually just got my license in 2021, but I did have my license in Maryland as well. But
Okay.
I didn't sell on I didn't sell real estate when I was in Maryland. When I was in Maryland, I worked for an agent called Craig Northrup. He's still huge and bigger than, you know, even when I worked for him. But the way he kind of has it set up is he has a whole team of people that kind of get properties ready for him. So he called them HMCs, home marketing consultants. And I was one of those home marketing consultants. I think there was like 5 of us on average. And we were kind of split up between counties and where we lived and, you know, who needed what. I was kind of the floater because I didn't have a kid. I, you know, said, I want to learn everything. I want to learn the area. I want to learn everything. Throw me into whatever you want. So I'd be, you know, close to Pennsylvania and then, you know, all the way down in South Maryland in one day. You know, I
Oh,
would work 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. I mean, I did not care. I loved it and I immersed myself in it. And everything that I know about how to list a home and what makes a home sell, you know, what doesn't make a home sell, I learned from working there. Not just, you know, him, but his team, his people, you know, other coworkers. It was a really good group environment where everyone just kind of took away all the information that, you know, was deemed necessary for whatever job you had.
yeah.
So once I actually got pregnant, then I said, okay, well, I can't do this 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. job anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do the marketing side. And he needed a little bit of help on the luxury marketing side. So I was like, let me do that for you. I can do that from home, you know. The lady that does the staging for all the luxury, she's very right-brained. So there wasn't a lot of like,
Creativity piece in
or
it.
I'm sorry. No, I thought left brain was the No, I thought right brain was the creative and
It
left
is, it
brain,
is,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
left-handed, yeah.
So she was all creative and no calculative
And that's where you came in.
logistics,
Yeah,
whatnot, you know. And I like the blend of it. So, you know, having her be fully on the right and then me fully on the left helped a little bit because, you know, that's what I wanted to do, to stay home with my daughter. I didn't want to be out and about in appointments anymore. I wanted to just support her. But eventually they said, you know what, we're changing things a little bit and, you know, you need to come back to the office. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to leave my baby.
yeah.
So we didn't have family and we still don't in the area. We don't have family. All of our family is, you know, down in Florida. My husband has a giant Cuban family down there and we go down there probably 4 times a year to visit them. But yeah, so it was wonderful to work there, but I really just wanted to focus on my daughter, and that's what we did for a good 2 years. And then my husband's job kind of brought us over to the Virginia side. And I said, okay, now she's getting a little bit older, you know, I can kind of start focusing on getting back to work, and that's what I did. So I started a staging company in 2019, and you know, I pulled my clients from Maryland and I was still driving to Maryland. I pulled, you know, new clients from Virginia, and by clients I really mean agents because that was my, you know, audience.
Yeah.
So I would go and do what I did for Craig, but I would do it for other agents, that didn't have that same business setup, obviously, and that needed the help with staging and marketing and listing their homes. So I would seek out agents and help them, list their homes. And I loved it. However, I eventually, the goal was always to go into the sales side. And I knew that the staging and the marketing aspect of it was only going to build that up for me. And I did use that to my leverage, of course. I built out my inventory. So when I, became an agent, I could stage my own properties. So that's what I did. I built out my inventory. I built out my clientele, my relationships, my name out in the market. So by 2021, if someone needed a stager or a decorator, I was recommended, top in any of the lists. So I really loved how I grew so steadily in the area, but I really, really wanted to sell. I wanted to have, the best of both worlds. And that's what I went after. I got my license and, and hit the ground running. And I think a lot of that, like I said, is just based off of everything that I learned, when I first moved to Maryland. And I think it really does help my clients as well.
How'd you get your first client?
What was that?
How'd you get your first client?
So she was actually a neighbor and a friend. She had a hard time fitting into the neighborhood. And I was like, well, you seem nice, you seem cool to me. Let's go for a walk, Oh, you're sick. Let me bring you some, chicken soup, and we just kind of built a friendship. And then eventually she was like, hey, I want to sell. And
I love you, but I'm leaving.
yeah. I mean, she's only like 20 minutes away, so she didn't go too far. But eventually she just wanted to sell, and she was like, all right, I have I have a dog and two toddlers. My house is, all hand-me-downs. I want to sell, but I think I need you and your staging. And I was like, oh,
Make it look
absolutely.
good, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we did. We pulled everything out of her house, because nothing really went. And the way her house was built, was a little bit darker. And then she had darker pieces. So I was like, okay, let's lighten it up. Let's bring in, this, lighter furniture, nicer furniture, and just make it pop, make it fresh and pop and make people want to come see it just based off of the photos. And that's what we did. And we sold it the first weekend. And
Oh, wow.
I'll say every house I've ever put on the market, except for one condo. The condos don't like me. But one condo was the only one that I didn't sell in the first weekend.
And that one took 2.
I know, right? No, actually that one took like 3 months. But we did
But you're very honest about it.
Oh, but it drives me crazy. It does.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah. But I blame it. It's in Arlington. It's a condo. Condos, aren't doing well in this market. So, or as well, I should say.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to blame it on. And we listed at a poor time, but we had to list then, so there's always excuses and reasons. But but no, I do love what I do. And the goal for my clients is always sell it, for the first weekend. One reason is that's when you will get your top dollar price.
Yeah.
Second reason is it's so inconvenient to be on the market, especially if you have kids, if you have pets. So getting it under contract and out of the way the first weekend is like a big hallelujah for them,
I was going to say, that's pretty remarkable. Is it from strategies that you've learned along the way?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you've been putting in the work before you became an agent.
Yeah, like I said, I learned everything from what sells, from what doesn't, how to take photos, of real estate, of houses, what sells in a photo, what doesn't sell, what angle to take. It's very different than obviously,
what you see.
Person
Even as
photography.
a photographer, I was gonna say, as a photographer myself, I actually hated doing the real estate photography.
Oh, did you ever do it?
I did. Pictures look amazing, beautiful, except for when you show it to an experienced agent, because they're like, oh, actually the angle isn't quite right. I'm like, what do you mean it looks good?
Yeah.
Like, we need to show more of the yard or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take it over. Like, and I was like, all right, I'm done. You have to have like the eye for real estate. So just taking a pretty picture, coming from the photographer, it does not cut it.
No, it does not. You really have to highlight the home and what what you see in person, and I tell this to my clients all the time, what you see in person will not translate into what you see in photos.
Yeah.
So knowing what to look for on that end, I think, is a big help. And when I've trained agents, I've said, hey, here's this photo and here's this photo. Tell me, what you would do differently in one versus the other. And I think once they see that in front of them, they're like, oh, I get it,
So you give master class in like real estate photography is what I'm hearing.
I mean, I probably could at this point. So if you ever want to collab on that.
Do you have a team right now, or are you?
So, kind of, but mostly it's just me. I do want to eventually start hiring. So the way my process works is I try to be as involved with my clients as possible, because I have learned just from past experiences, watching other, agents, because again, I've worked with so many. I've learned that a lot of people don't like to be passed around in this business. So when they do have access to, one person, and the information is just going through one person and not, through 10 different people, it makes it smoother for them. It makes it, easier, it makes it more trustworthy to them. Whatever positive word you want to throw out there, it's just easier. So I think being, like I said, accessible from A to Z is one of the most important things. And I always tell my clients, I will handhold you as much or as little as you want, because everyone's personality is different, and everyone's level of care in a home and the listing process is also different. A mom could 100% be like the Pinterest mom, where her house looks just absolutely immaculate, and she might get offended if I do anything, and maybe we can tweak a few little things just for the camera, but she might not want me as involved, while someone else, like my friend,
who's like, make it,
yes, do what you want,
sell it in a weekend, yeah, presentable.
And that's what it was, So I think, again, with people, it's personality driven, but I want to give them the option of, hey, I'm here as little or as much as you want. So I do handle most of everything. I do have movers, Amasha movers. I don't know if you guys know about them, but 5-star rated movers, professional all the way. I use them for all of my stagings, and I also pay for my buyer clients' moves as well. So if they're moving, in state, they're moving from Arlington to Purcellville or whatnot, have them to help me with the heavy lifting. But because I'm particular with how I want things to look, until I can take the time and actually train someone to say, hey, this is what we're looking for on the staging side, and this is what you should look for, then it's probably going to remain me. But I do plan on getting a stager to actually train and help, and that way I can kind of take that load off, because that's probably one of the more time-consuming things that I do.
Can I give you one piece of advice?
Yeah.
When you get to that point, document it.
Okay.
Because that's been the biggest struggle with me, is as I've grown my team business, I'm like, okay, I want to like add somebody else in the mix.
Yeah.
And then obviously, as much as you want them to stay forever, for whatever reason, either they leave or you realize it's not a good fit, and then you're like, crap, now I got to train. Again.
Oh, that's what
and
you
again,
mean, yeah.
and again, and again. But it's like, if you've got it documented
Yep.
in video,
yep,
like it could just be Lily with the a little camera, like just kind of recording what you're saying. That way, it's like when you onboard that person to be like, watch this first, because it's going to give you 80% of what you need, and then I'll just come in with the 20% and let you ask questions.
Yeah.
That way, you're not like,
that's genius. And with that being said, I remember when we worked, at Craig, he actually had kind of a high turnover with his HMCs, because it was just such a demanding job.
Yeah. You don't know what you signed up for until
yeah,
you're there.
You really didn't. Like I said, 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. sometimes, that was the norm during the spring market. Anyway, but yeah, so I mean, he had a handbook of hey, this is, what we're teaching you. So yes, I agree. That does definitely make things easier because we did have to pull that handbook out quite often.
Well, because I can see you as like this, like you said, you studied the luxury like market, where it's like, yeah, you start onboarding other agents. They learn from you kind of like what you did, but they'd be agents, and then you're growing your team.
Right.
And they're like learning your methodology and everything from presentation to all the specialties that you have, but the making sure the house looks presentable and
Absolutely.
how you can sell a home in a week, the first weekend. That's like
absolutely.
that's your trademark right
I'm,
there.
I'm trying to maintain that too. Now,
Just
of course,
no condos.
Now, of course, I did start, in a time where most homes, as long as they're priced and presented properly, are going off the market in a weekend.
Yeah.
But even before, when I did work, like I said, for Craig, and I would do it for agents, if an agent, really the challenge was, and I love this challenge, but the challenge was always, how do I get the sellers, how do I convince them? Because the agent would always call me and say, hey, these sellers, are probably going to budge a little bit. They don't want to do anything, blah, blah, blah. By the end of the appointment, I got them to do this, 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 and this, and this.
How do you do that?
Just telling them the consequences, honestly. Telling them the consequences and explaining of, hey, what translates in person is not going to translate in photos, and explaining that everything nowadays is based off of photos. That initial impression that people see online, which is what people shop now, is online. That is the most, important first impression that you will have. People need to fall in love right then and there the second they see the photo. If they can pick your house apart, they're going to A, want to negotiate. They're going to B, probably not even want to see it, or they'll wait, until a price drop, whatever it may be. You need their attention right away for them to jump right away. Buyers buy off of emotion, and that's what I tell sellers all the time. We need them to love your house. And really, like I said, it's just explaining, that
I was gonna
concept.
say you're selling me right now. Like,
I mean,
you educate
right.
from experience.
Right.
You're laying it all out. I talk to my team about this quite often, where it's like, don't expect the client to know, like, for example, headshots. Clients usually come in and they're like, I just want a pretty picture of me. Don't let them, it's fine. We'll get the pretty pictures of you. So that's like a given, right? But it's like really educating clients up front on like, okay, let's talk about your brand here. How are you getting your referrals? How are you growing your business?
Right.
Are you using YouTube? Are you on Instagram? Because as you know, photos will capture people's attention and they're paying attention. Now you can say whatever the heck you want in the message and the caption, top of mind awareness.
Right.
And kind of like what you do with selling the whole experience of why it's important to have like the right photos to sell the homes up front. You kind of pull them in with that because from experience, you know how much is translated to their business. I'll say the same thing to the team. Like, we have to educate them because when they come in,
we don't know anything. Oh my God.
they're like, I just want a nice LinkedIn headshot.
Yeah. We don't know anything. We leave it up to you guys,
professionals,
Absolutely. I want the hand holding every single time if I don't know something. Yeah, I need it. Like, I want you to literally place me how you want,
Yeah.
Like, I want that hand-on experience where if I'm not getting it, like, I need you to make me get it.
I was talking to somebody earlier today about like, do you think the real estate industry is like shifting, changing? And she's like a transaction coordinator, and she was saying like, and I agree with this 100%. Everybody, like, there is always going to be a market of people that are going to want that advisor level experience for somebody to hold them by the hand and take them through the process.
Of course.
Like, automation is never going to take that away. It will for a percentage of people that have went through like 10 transactions. They're like, I can do this myself. So there's a certain market for every industry of people that are like that.
Right. Yeah, I would say so.
But there's people like us that's like, show me what to do, where to sign, what, like, help me, guide me through these decisions.
Yeah. No, I don't think that automation will ever really take real estate over. There's so many little things that are different every step of the way. Every house is different, every client is different, every moving situation is different, every, just timeline is different. Every little thing is so different. When problems arise, I've never dealt with the same problem twice.
But you have the experience to know how to navigate
right,
that problem.
right.
Whereas the newbie is like, YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we still have to call other agents too. I definitely have my Rolodex of agents where I'm like, hey, this is happening. Have you dealt with this? What can you tell me? So no, that's why I'm saying, there's always going to be something that's different, and you're not going to have dealt with everything. But that's why it's important that you also do get an agent where they're okay to say, hey, I don't know this one. Let me reach out to, my relationships and see how we can get this solved, the best.
Yeah.
And I've done that plenty of times where I've called, other agents, and one agent will say one thing, another will say another. And then, by the third agent, I have the best case scenario for what I can do for my clients.
Yeah.
And I think, the agent to agent relationships are very important for that reason. And it's also good to just have those relationships, because when I'm representing a client, I want the other agent to feel comfortable and confident in working with me and my client. I think that camaraderie is important. A lot of people think that sales is very bulldogish, but it's not. You're always going to want that win-win scenario for both sides. And yes, there's no negotiation tactics, of course, that you can do for your sellers or buyers, to benefit them a little bit more. But at the end of the day, real estate is also very market driven business. So if you think that you're going to negotiate on a house that 15 other people want,
You need to
it's
reset
not
your expectations.
right. It's not realistic, So
there's
only so much we can do at that point. But yeah, I think, having agents around and having those positive relationships with your peers and not seeing them as competition, but rather as collaboration is really important too.
I agree. What are you going to do when you retire?
Oh, I want to do like a bed and breakfast with like a winery and like a
you already thought this
restaurant.
out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I miss the hospitality industry. I do.
Oh, that's funny.
I do. I like working with people. I always did. When I was growing up, my dad actually pushed me to the IT side because he was like, everything's going to be IT, and he doesn't like people. So I was like, well, that's not me. Like, I like talking to people. I was always the friend, that everyone came to for advice. I was always, the friend that was helping everyone. So to me, I knew automatically that I am a people person. I want to work with people. And I always said that to him. If you put me in front of a computer even now, I hate it. I just hate it. Even like for my job, the things that I enjoy the least are the things that I have to do on the computer. For example, I switched from Keller Williams to Samson Properties, and trying to learn the new systems, I was like, oh my God, this is torture for me.
Yeah.
And I reached out, to some of the people there, and I was like, please, I just need someone to like handhold me this. Yes.
Tell me which buttons to push.
Yes, exactly. And then I'm okay. But yeah, so very much so a people person. So I think owning, like a nice bed and breakfast and winery or restaurant or whatever.
There's
maybe
the
all
property
three.
out in Round Hill, like the little motel. Have you seen that place?
Yeah,
the motel place.
Right before 7.
Yeah.
I know that's been on for a while.
I know. Is it haunted?
I don't know.
Kind of
Who knows?
fired up.
I've actually never been inside of it.
I think it'd be so fun though.
Yeah,
Do
it
something like
would.
that.
Someone will probably snatch it up, but
We'll see. That's not your property though.
no, I want views. Yeah, I want to be
highway
like
views out there.
yes, like I love Bluemont. I think ideally if whenever we're ready to move next, it will probably be Bluemont, because I love the views.
Where are you at now?
Percival.
Okay, so close by.
Yeah, close by. But
I saw your daughter does like horseback.
yeah, she does.
Yeah, out
she
there.
does.
Everyone's got little farms. So.
I know. She goes to budding equestrians in Waterford.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're really cute, and the trainer there is just so patient and good with the kids. And then the horse actually was
what drew me into that one, because we went trunk or treating at Percival Baptist, and both times that we went, back to back years, I saw this horse there, and it was dressed up in a Halloween costume, and the lady was there, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. And that horse was surrounded by little kids. I mean, just surrounded. And it was completely fine.
Oh my God.
So chill. And I was like, okay, that's the horse I want Lily to train on.
The horse got commission for that.
Yeah,
too.
right? But then I host a Halloween party for my neighborhood every year. We have like a big food truck and bartenders and everything. I mean, we make it super fun. So I see this lady, and she's stopping by with one of the neighbors that I did know. And we introduce ourselves, and she starts talking about her horse. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, are you the lady that does the trunk or treat? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I need your number now.
I need your horse.
Yes. So we actually became friends, and it's a wonderful little establishment, like I said, out in Waterford. So if anyone's looking, highly recommend them.
I love that.
Yeah.
You got to support each other.
Absolutely. Always.
All right. So just to kind of wrap it up here, what's one piece of advice that you'd give, whether it's from your childhood growing up, whether it's from building your business to where it's at today, or just kind of running into the people that you ran into along the way? Like, what's one thing that you could share with the world?
I would say follow your gut, follow your intuition about, what kind of person you are and what you think you're passionate about. I don't fully believe, that every passion should be, a business, because sometimes that's hard to live off of. I do believe that, you need to be financially stable above all else. But if you can kind of incorporate your personalities and passions into your job, I think that you really can have the best of both worlds. And that's when you're the happiest, honestly, when you really follow your gut and when you're just yourself. And I think that's probably the best that I got.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.